there, listeners. This is the Arrow here with the DarkMatch, and we're going to change it up for a bit. Instead of doing our typical wrestling reviews, we are going to move into wrestling films. Of course, sadly, I'm alone here in this venture because I was the only one brave enough to watch the latest in WWE Films, Inside Out. And, it's not as terrible as you would expect. Granted, it has a 25% freshness rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Apparently 57% of the audience liked it. And on IMDb, it has a 5-star rating out of 10. And the Metascore is 28 out of 100. Personally, I would say it was extremely average. Like I guess the IMDb says, I have freshly just finished the film that I actually paid to buy. Thankfully, it was in the bargain bin already at my local Walmart, so I was in luck there. I did not pay much for it, so I cannot complain, but the only time I'll probably watch this again probably would be with a good buddy of mine who would just watch it for the novelty of seeing Triple H in a movie, like we did with The Chaperone. Triple H, once again, reprising his role as a fresh-out-of-jail convict, I know. Nothing new there. And it picks up with him getting out of jail. Well, actually, it picks up him getting out of bed with Parker Posey, then we see him get shot, and then we flash to 6 days earlier. Well, then we go to Michael Rappaport, who is playing a former, or I guess dude who never got done out of the crime business, but he kind of did, who played by Bruce Dern, Vic Small. Michael Rappaport is Jack Small, that Bruce Dern's son. And he's a screw-up, is essentially his character. He's an alcoholic, he's kind of just a general, he's a terrible guy, putting it lightly. And so Bruce Dern's character, Vic Small, was a former crime boss who's into cigarette smuggling from China, and we have this. Once Jack picks up AJ, or Arlo Jane, played by Triple H, they go to meet. They meet Vic at where he's practicing veterinary activities. He's being a vet. He's basically, kind of an odd transition from the from the crime business. But he's, I guess, not out. It's just a front. So they go visit him, and he says he's got a shipment that Michael Rappaport's character, Jack Small, needs to take care of. And so they go to this bar that AJ and Jack went to school with. And then they kind of reminisce on the past. They have some character development, whatever. Then they meet this convenience store owner who buys cigarettes from Vic Small, and they do a deal, but then Michael Rappaport's trying to basically pressure Sylvester into never missing a shipment, and then he ends up shooting him. And it turns out that Sylvester was actually working for the cops, so he was an informant. And what ends up happening is they end up having to hide the body, and then they hide the murder, but then later the lady who's working with him, what's her name? I can't remember. She's basically a tax cop, I guess you'd say, busts people for audits, tax fraud, etc., and that's why she's trying to bust Vic Small for tax evasion on the cigarettes the quote-unquote counterfeit cigarettes from China that basically are wrapped in Camel, Marlboro, etc. logos. And so she tries to investigate this. She knocks on the door of the bar, and they're like, "Oh God, oh no!" And then they don't speak, and then she walks away. Then they wait all night, and they hide the body, and they crush it in the car, but then they take the $250,000 that was supposed to be for the deal, and then they go home and they kind of just like brush it under the rug, and Vic Small's like, "Where's my money?" And then Michael Rappaport's character's like, "Oh, we didn't get the money." And then Vic knows that he's lying because his son's a screw-up, and apparently Michael Rappaport's character Jack Small is living above his means, who is married to Parker Posey, Claire Small, who was in a former relationship with AJ, Triple H's character. And we later find out about, they also have a daughter named Pepper, which honestly I don't know why that name really bothers me, but it does. And we later find out that Pepper is actually Triple H's daughter, because when Claire and AJ were dating, she was pregnant, and AJ got locked up for manslaughter for 13 years, and she didn't know who to turn to, so she ended up falling in love with Jack Small, that typical cliche story that we've seen in so many movies before. And so the plot plays out that, Jack Small goes out to he leaves town. He was gonna get called in for questioning, but then a cop shows up at his door, tries to stop him, and then he runs over the cop, and then goes out to Claire's mother's apartment, apparently, and then he gets stuck in the, he's out there for a while, and we don't really hear from him, and then AJ has to deal with Vic Small saying, "Oh, I don't know where he is, I don't know what to do," but, of course, Claire knows where he is, because it's his mother's apartment, they talked about it. So we get some character development about Triple H's guy being a reformed criminal, and he's got something, for some reason he's obsessed with pickles. It's like he wants to go into a pickling business after coming out of jail. He doesn't want anything to do with the crime business, but he's pulled back in. So the tax audit lady is trying to find out where her informant is, and so she goes back into the bar and questions the bar guy, and then Vic Small and his Eastern European chick Irina, she's got a very unfortunate face and really creeps me out. Who's like she's like the main muscle for him, and and then after the chick, I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Martha goes in there, and with a detective after she went into missing persons, and and the bar owner spills the beans that it wasn't AJ's fault, and Jack Small killed Sylvester, and it wasn't an accident, and after they pressure him about jail time. So then they leave, then Vic Small and Irina come in, and they basically tell him that, he says they're not gonna find it, the police aren't gonna find anything in his place. He lies about basically spilling the beans, and then they dispose of the body, and then the bar owner's mother, who lives upstairs, comes down, takes a shot at Irina, misses, then she leaves, but not after leaving a sketch pad that reads "Kaboom," because apparently they wired the place to blow very fast, I might add, because this explosion looked like it mostly came from the inside, considering they were on the outside the whole time. I don't know how they rigged it up. That's one of the few things that didn't make sense. And so they kill the mother of the bar owner and the bar owner, and then they go away, and then the chick, what's her face, the audit cop, she's like, "Oh no, we lost our main guy, now we suspect that Vic Smalls killed this guy and his mother," and so that's two bodies that they're accrediting to Vic Small, and yeah, it gets kind of fuzzy. I'm coming right out of this, I just finished the movie, and there's I'm guessing, I guess I'll skip to this part, because I guess nothing important happened there. We find out, in a meeting that they skipped that I guess got left on the cutting room floor, the audit cop visits Claire Small, played by Parker Posey again, and tells them that they're basically broke, and that's why Michael Rappaport hasn't given the $250,000 his dad because he needs the money for school, mortgage, car payments, etc. Just general bills, because he's living above his means, like most Americans. And one funny thing I should point out is this movie comes out at a really unfortunate time because they apparently the cigarettes that Vic Small is selling tax free is is going to fund Al Qaeda. The money that they pay is funding Al Qaeda and the Taliban, and they mentioned Bin Laden, and this is like it comes out at an unfortunate time, seeing as Bin Laden's now dead and has his body dumped in the ocean. But apparently Claire knows that there's a shipment of cigarettes coming in, and so she informs the audit cop that that there's going to be a deal at the docks. And this takes place in Louisiana. It's really interesting to note that nobody has a southern accent. Not one character seems like they're even from Louisiana. You think they would have thrown in, like, one Cajun, but there's not a single person. And after AJ's parole meeting, the audit cop hooks up with AJ and just like, yeah, we know about all this stuff. And so then they take him to the docks where we see Vic Small getting arrested, and then what else happens? Jeez, like I'm kind of drawing a blank here. Like I said, the movie was very average. Oh yeah, essentially AJ goes back to Claire, and then he wants to know where Jack is. And he says that where he's at, up in her mother's cabin. And so they go out there, and he has a conversation, and Jack's just Jack Small assumes that AJ was sent there by Vic to kill him. But on the way up there, AJ is followed by two of Vic Small's Eastern European thugs, to which he quickly disposes of them by stopping in a local restaurant along the way, and goes through the kitchen, then out the back door, then ambushes them and punches them and kicks one in the nuts. So we had a low blow from Triple H, which was nice to see. Wish we would have got to see a pedigree or something, but hey, can't expect too much from what wants to be reality. Then he makes his way up there, and they have that little confrontation. Then Jack's busy when AJ gets up there. He's writing a letter explaining the whole story, leaves it on the kitchen table, and they go have a talk out by the lake. And then he fires 2 shots in the sky, just like, what I love about the country, that you can do all sorts of stupid shit. And then he walks away, and then we hear 1 gunshot fired, which he ends up killing himself with on a low note. So then AJ travels back home, and then he goes to a funeral home, saying, and the funeral home's just like, oh, we're closed. And then he's like, I'm with Vic Small, and then they dispose of the body. And then throughout this, AJ visits his mother, who's in like a retirement home. It's also interesting to note that the audit cop's father is also in the home. It's in the same home, or at least I assume that was supposed to be, like, implied. I'm assuming that wasn't intentional. I mean, I don't think it was supposed to be intentional, but you could tell the decor around the place was exactly the same. It was very kind of Zen Eastern European. I think they had Buddhist monks walking around. And so he visits his mother. Nothing really of real character development happens there, but I thought I'd mention that just to say I covered it. And so Vic Small's now in jail, and AJ visits him, saying that that he needs to take care of this stuff. Where's the money? What happened? Yada yada yada. And so we come to like the final conclusion where AJ goes home to he doesn't go home. He goes to, because he's staying at the Small residence, Jack and Claire's place, with their daughter Pepper. And so ends up happening is Pepper apparently is away on the weekend doing something. So then AJ and Claire end up rekindling the romance, where AJ finds out that Pepper's actually his daughter, and they have sex, I'm assuming, and then we wake up to the next morning, and Pepper's coming home, and she finds out that AJ and Claire are in bed together, and then she closes the door behind them, and then Parker Posey, Claire Small wakes up, and then she searches through AJ's jeans, and she finds Jack Small's his necklace that he had his high school class ring in, possibly state championship ring, because they have a small thing where they both played football or something like that. Then Parker Posey gets up Parker Posey's sitting in a rocking chair while AJ wakes up, and then she's like, "You killed him, you heartless bastard." Then she shoots him after the door opens, and I'm assuming, like, they have this weird thing where Irina is there the whole time, the Eastern European chick. She's there, and, like, we see her, like, in between, and it's really creepy because it's just, like, flashes of her, and it's like, did she really need to be in the house? And sometimes, like, they would flash to her a couple seconds. I'm like, is this Pepper, or who is this? So then he gets shot, and while he's laying there, Claire and Pepper leave, and they go to her mother's cabin in the wilderness or wherever in Louisiana. And so Triple H goes to the shower, cleans his wound, and just gauzes up. I don't even think he tried to sanitize it, because I know there was plenty of alcohol in the house, because Michael Rappaport's character Jack Small was an alcoholic, and I assume that... and it seemed like Claire was also an alcoholic, but I don't think they really hinted that. And so the cops come to the door, like, right after AJ was shot, and he's just like, "No, I don't know anything." And they're like, "Where's Jack? Where's Claire? Where's everyone?" And then the audit cop tells Claire that she was snitching on Vic. She was the inside informant. But the thing I don't get is how Claire knew when the shipments were coming, how she knew about any of the inside crime business, because it didn't appear that she was part of anything. Like, she was aware that it was going on. She was kind of just like a mob wife. She was like, what's her, I can't remember the character's name, but in Goodfellas, she was the wife of, Ray Liotta, and she's basically playing that character where it's like, she knew what was going on, but she didn't know any of the details. So that's kind of the only plot hole I can really see here. So then they post a car outside. Then AJ reports a fake murder, a fake shooting at a different address. So the cop posts outside, moves. Then AJ goes to the cabin up north, or not up north, but a cabin out in the middle of nowhere where he assumes that they went. But on the way driving, he's losing blood still, and he's all feeling like adrenaline shock, whatever, from the gunshot, and he's all disoriented. So we see him like traveling on the road, and he's crossing over the median and shit, but doesn't crash. And then we go to the back seat where we see Irina just laying there and wait like a snake in the grass. And so we get to the house, and then he comes out, and then Claire's like, "Oh my God, I read Jack's letter," and she's like, "I didn't mean, I'm so sorry." And then they have a talk, and then he's like, "I'm really cold," and there's no heating or anything in the cabin. So he goes outside to get his jacket, and then in the back seat he sees another notepad that reads "Kaboom," which obviously means the house is wired to blow. But again, I don't see how this chick, like, managed to rig this whole explosion up. Like, these explosions are pretty, just, planned explosion looks. Like, you'd think she would just throw, like, a stick of dynamite or something. But it looks too extensive and too quick for when this explosion happens. And so once AJ realizes this, he gets out of the car, or he gets back inside, and he drags Parker and Claire out with him. And this is all while he has a gunshot. So Pepper was sleeping, so he picks her up, and fireman carries her out of there. So this is all while he's got a gunshot. So I'm assuming adrenaline. I'm just going to attribute this to adrenaline. And because, Triple H is just so buff and ripped that he's strong enough to withstand a gunshot wound to the abdomen. It looked like it shot in the lower abdomen, kind of like it would have penetrated his kidney, lower intestine area. But, so they get out there, and then he tells them to go, and he's got a gun now, and he's just like, I'm going to finish this. Then Irina ambushes him, and they kind of have a pseudo-fight. And what ends up happening is Irina basically smashes his hand with a 2x4, and then she picks up the gun that Triple H had, and then she's about to shoot into him. But then Pepper, of all people, after Claire runs to try and help him, but then Pepper shoots him from the car, because we learn earlier in the movie that she was trained to shoot by Jack. So then they basically just leave the body and go home. We flash forward to like 2 weeks later after that, and then we find out that they're at Jack's gravestone, and it's a pretty nice gravestone. For people who were broke, I'm assuming he had a large insurance policy that even covered suicide, and I know some of those insurance policies do not cover suicide, so I'm assuming that happened. So he's got a large gravestone in a cemetery, and then they reminisce, and then they kind of drive off in the sunset, and then Triple H has this final line, which is just like, you got some of those pickles back there? Because, he's kind of obsessed with pickles. And after that's what he wants to go into business. And then so Pepper goes back in the car, into the trunk, and reaches for it. And then we find the jars are full of all the money that the $250,000. And then they're just like, I think we're gonna be just fine. And that's pretty much the movie. It wasn't spectacular. It wasn't terrible. I wasn't on the edge of my seat. It was an alright movie. Like I said, I've seen worse things. It's no Bruno Mattei film. It's not like worst of the worst stuff. It's no Citizen Kane. It's no Godfather. I think what this really wanted to be was The Departed. It really had a feel of just really like low-end crime. These people were kind of just really seemed like low-end criminals with like a very hierarchy, and really the only plot holes I can find were just like, how did Claire know about the business that Vic Small, like, how did she know the intimate details of when things were going down to inform, and how did they set up these explosives extremely fast? That's about the only real thing that kind of goes unanswered. Didn't really make a lot of sense. But other than that, it was all right, I would say. A very average rating. I think it's accurately rated at 5 stars on IMDb. I don't think it warrants the what is it, like 25% rotten rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But I don't think it's very good at all. And when I rate things, I rate it on a bell curve, meaning that average is 50%, and it's harder and harder to achieve perfection, but it's also harder and harder to achieve shit. So it all evens out. And if you've never seen a bell curve before, then just look it up on Google Images. So that's my review of Inside Out, starring Paul Triple H Levesque, Michael Rappaport, Parker Posey, and Bruce Dern. So I hope you'll tune in next time when I do this again. I might rewatch The Chaperone and do a more accurate movie review of that. I might do that new zombie film or horror film that WWE Studios has coming out. Hell, I might even do, what is it, that Big Show movie that was just awful to look at. But I know there's plenty of WWE movies out there. I don't plan on doing The Marine. I don't plan on doing 12 Rounds. Definitely not doing The Marine 2, starring Ted DiBiase. So yeah, I hope you'll keep listening to all of our material and content. So this is the Arrow signing off for the DarkMatch movie reviews.